What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So as y'all know, I did end up promising I am going to start doing the online time trials here in Gran Turismo. Currently, I'm going to be sitting at 2 gold medals here, with the last one I did end up getting in the Red Bull race car type of thing that was last week before this one did reset. And I'm currently going to be in gold in this one here as well, which I would say I am safe in this one. It's over a little around 0.1 of a second or so with around 6 days left, so I should be good on that one. But for this one though, it is going to be on the one track, guys. I really had to practice a lot on this one. I do like this track a bit, but my goodness, the learning curve on it, at least for me, I am new to Gran Turismo, so yeah, I am struggling a bit, especially in the CLK like Supermaster license. That was something. Before this though, guys, I am currently at a 2.220, 2.5% in gold, and it's going to be a 221, 165 currently. So what I did do with this one though, I will show you guys, go over some tips and tricks. And if you are wondering, the first thing I'm going to say is yes, I am running a controller. I'm not going to be on a wheel, but head into this here. Now, if you want, you could probably use the GTR or the Super, but I would recommend using the NSX. This car is so dang good. And no, you do not have to own the vehicle to do any of the time trials. I do know people were talking about that. Hit OK on this and then head right into the event. There's going to be a few things, guys, I want to point out here specifically with my settings that I do think is going to help a good amount. So for this though, heading into these settings here, the first thing I'm going to show you is probably going to be pretty obvious. The car settings is going to be absolutely nothing because this is the vehicle gives you. I did not touch it. Besides that though, heading into my assist settings though, I am going to be on a manual transmission, would definitely recommend it. Besides that though, my TC is going to be on 0, guys. I never run TC on any of the events. Probably running 1 or 2 isn't a terrible idea, but I always run 0. My ABS is going to be on default. I do know some people were running it on weak, but I was running mine on default and had no issues keeping my speed up. Everything else is basically going to be off for the most part. Besides that though, on my controller settings, I am not touching any of this. All of this is completely stock to when you first end up starting the game, so do keep that in mind. Like, yeah, you could probably turn up the controller steering if you want. I did try that a few times, but I did end up leaving it on 0. I like the way that it does feel. Besides that, everything is the same. The last thing I do want to show that would help a lot, now I would recommend doing this if you are struggling, because I was struggling. Head over to ghost settings here, guys. Now what you would want to do though is have the load ghost obviously open. Besides that, have your personal ghost on and the displayed loaded ghost. That way you can see some of these goated top 10 drivers and see what they do. Maybe follow them, but also have your personal best ghost with you. That way when you are doing the event, you can be like, okay, so I'm a little faster in this turn. Then you might end up being like me though and noticing that, yeah, my ghost is going to be faster in this other turn, so I have to work on this one. Even though you might be faster in one area, you might be slower in the other, so there is going to be some practice there. But that is also why I would recommend running both of the ghosts, guys. It does help a bit. I do know people might be like, don't run the loaded ghost, like that's going to be cheap. But look, man, even running the loaded ghost, it's still going to be hard to get into gold on these. So I figured, why not have some of these things active? That way it's going to help you, maybe guide you a bit in some areas you messed up in, and that way you could become even faster. Now the thing is, on this track, guys, there's a few things I noticed about this car before I will show the footage of it. I will have everything timestamped if you just want to watch the run and all that stuff. But for this car though, the biggest thing is this thing grips a lot better than I thought it would. In fact, I was kind of going a bit slow when I was doing my earlier runs with it. I was getting around 2 minutes 24, 2 minutes 25. I'm like, yo, wait, this thing has got to be better around these corners. Turns out it is. Running no TC though, this thing can spin out if you are slamming the throttle down, so do be careful on that. But going around certain corners, like for example the first one, you're going to want to stay in first gear because the car is going to over rev a bit. That way you can pretty much come around the turn, power out of that in first gear, go into second. If you were to shift into second on that first turn, guys, you're going to lose a lot of time on it. Ask me how I know, because I did end up doing that multiple times when I was doing it. You're then going to fly down the hill and get to the next big corner after that, or like the fast S type of corner, or the small, I guess, snake type of turn. Regardless though, on that one, you could pretty much stay in fifth gear, power through the turn all the way, even on controller if you are wondering. I was able to go through that doing like 150 or so, but it's the way you do end up taking it. So when coming down that hill, you're most likely going to be in fifth gear doing around maybe 100 or 50 miles an hour or so. You're going to want to basically take that first part kind of tight on the left side of it. I think it's going to be called the curb or whatever, like the colored part of it. Go over that, then right after that, guys, pretty much basically whip the car to the right, going over the small part of the curb, but not too much though, because if you do go over it too much, you are then going to hop and basically mess the entire turn up. So you're probably going to want to do it a second or two later. That way you stay on the track. You're then going to be able to go on the next curb part and stay in there doing over 150. You can then pretty much over rev the car in fifth gear. I messed up a lot when I was doing this because I was like, wait, why am I shifting at 150? I seem slower. When you guys are in fifth gear, you can shift the car like 155 miles an hour to 157. I would recommend doing it. It will make you quicker. So pretty much get it to 155, shift up. That's what I did end up doing on the straightaway, then basically head to the next area of corners after that. For the next part, it's going to be another tight like type of S type of corner. So for this one, I would recommend going into second gear. The car is again going to go to like 90 or so miles an hour in second gear. So that way when you are going around some of these tighter corners, you'll probably be doing like 65, 70-ish, maybe like 75, and you can pretty much power through the turn in second gear. Now I do know if you slam it down too hard, you can slide out a bit, guys, but what I was noticing though is ease on that throttle. That way you don't make the car spin out. Once you get around that S corner, you're then going to come up to the next one, pretty much go wide into that, and then take it on the inner side, pretty much right on the side of the curb area. Again, on that one, I was pretty much staying in second, maybe through like 3/4 of the turn. I basically went into third gear, but I really don't think you have to go through that turn in third gear. It probably all depends on how you do end up approaching it. The next turn, though, you could pretty much accelerate all the way to that one, doing around 100 or so miles per hour, most likely approaching that in fourth gear or so, so you're probably going to be a bit quicker. Do not brake too late, though, because you might end up taking the turn at a very odd angle. Then you're going to try to fix it and then most likely come out of that turn a tad slower. If you try to accelerate too early, then you're going to accelerate into like the green part of it coming out of it. So I would say that corner is going to be a bit annoying. Funny part is, during the CLK race, I really had to practice on that turn because I was always messing it up. But what I would recommend doing, though, get the car into second gear, guys. Keep it tight on the side of the curb area again. And then try to accelerate around 3/4 out of it. That way you can come around it. Basically getting you ready in the next angle, coming back into the outside of the turn, getting ready for the next one because the next turn really can mess you up really bad. Now, what I would recommend doing for this corner, though, is when you are coming out of the previous one, you can probably accelerate into third. I would recommend going back in a second, taking the turn a tad tighter. That way, when you're pretty much coming out of it, heading toward the next part of the curb area on that side of the track, you can already start accelerating, getting into third gear, and basically flying through it and getting as much speed out of it as you possibly can. We're then going to come up to probably what is a very annoying turn on the entire track, at least if you hit it wrong anyway. But if you do get this turn right, though, you can have so much speed out of this, it's pretty dang insane. So for this, guys, what I would recommend doing is putting the car into fourth gear. Yes, you could probably go into third and be a tad faster, but I would recommend trying fourth. Basically brake a tad early, around 100, 103 miles an hour. Stay toward the left side of the curb area there, take the turn a tad tighter. Then if you are going to be at the right angle, you can legit full throttle out of the entire corner from there. And I was able to get around 130 plus miles an hour coming out of that said corner, pretty much shifting it in the fifth, heading toward the next corner basically at rocket speed. I felt like that was the best way to do it. I do know some players might go into third, maybe shift back into fourth, even stay in fifth gear. But try fourth gear, guys. Do around 103 miles an hour. Aim the car right. That way you can easily full throttle out of it, having the most speed possible. For the next corner, though, I would recommend once again going into second gear, guys, braking a tad earlier, basically taking the corner a tad tighter. That way you're going to stay on like the curb area, pretty much right on the side of the track. That way you can come around the next corner, getting into that one a bit quicker. Now, when you are coming out of that corner, though, you could probably accelerate, hit the car into third gear, pretty much going around the side of the curb again, having even more speed out of it. I think if you do it right, you could probably do 95, even 100 miles an hour out of that turn, but obviously my skill level is not currently there, so I was struggling a bit. For the next corner, again, I would recommend going back in a second, then through the corner, going to third, pretty much speed toward the next one. Now, I do know people are talking about this corner a bit. You could probably go through it full speed. Was I doing that? Not really, no. I pretty much took my hand off the gas for a second, or my finger anyway. But if you are aiming that car, I think when I was doing it, I was probably in third gear, probably trying to get the car in fourth gear, but I think I left it in the third gear to be a tad quicker. I basically stayed on the inner part of the main apex of the corner, like the curb part of it. I know I'm probably messing up the track stuff and all that, but either way though, staying on the inside of it, guys, you can pretty much power out of that corner a bit faster. That way when you're coming out of it, you could go into immediately fourth gear, then get into fifth, and pretty much power through the rest of the straightaway after that. The next turn you're probably going to have to worry about, I would recommend maybe slowing down a bit if you have to. Take your finger off the gas for maybe a split second, that way the car can get into the corner. Or if you're actually going to take it at the right angle, you could probably power all the way through it in sixth gear. For me though, I kind of slowed down a bit. It did not mess my time up. The biggest thing for me though that I had issues with on this track, even in the CLK, is the final tight S corner at the end of it, man. Like, I do understand on this one, guys, the biggest tip I can give you, slow down a tad earlier. Don't really rush it trying to get there a bit quicker, like trying to beat your ghost. I did end up doing that. It's not worth it. You can legit lose all of your time on the last corner. Not even kidding, especially if you mess it up like I did. But if you do slow down a tad faster, put the car in first gear, guys, take that first corner tighter, then go around to the second one, try to dodge the outside of the curbing area because you'll be slower, pretty much going into that corner, slamming it in first gear, then going into second. You will then be good to go to hopefully get gold or at least close to it. I would say this entire time trial is going to be fairly difficult. I have never driven the NSX before because I am new to the game, but man, I am going to have to buy this car. If you guys have any questions, do let me know in the comments below. Here's the gold run I got on the new online weekly time trial here in Gran Turismo.